for coming. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start. I'm honored that we have some video tributes, and we're going to have those to play first, and then we'll be ready to move forward. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to see so many of you here today.
Oakland Bible Fellowship in Dallas. And I want to join the chorus of voices for congratulating Casey Thomas II for the great work he has done, not only for our district, District 3, but for the whole city of Dallas as part of the city council. Your friendship, your diligence, your commitment to your constituents, your open heart and open ears to the concerns of the community, as well as your district, has gone a great way to strengthening our city and our community. And to have 4 consecutive terms of faithfulness and of commitment says a lot about you and says a lot about how our community feels about you. We certainly feel that way about you here at Oakland Bible Fellowship. So thank you so much for all the time and the talent and the love that you have shown. And may the days ahead be greater than the days gone by, as God continues to use you to make our community a better place to live, work, raise families, and worship our God. God bless you, and again, congratulations.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Councilman Casey Thomas for the extraordinary leadership, the partnership he's provided to so many of us. Myself and Concord Church, along with the African American Pastors Coalition. Councilman Thomas, I want to thank you immensely for your tenure of service, whether it was partnering during the pandemic, whether it's been partnering for helping with rental and mortgage assistance for people in our community, whether it's been the partnership and working together to serve our senior citizens. You have consistently been a presence there. And so I want to thank you for the leadership you provided. Thank you for the partnership you provided. Thank you for these monthly breakfasts or periodic breakfasts. I regret I'm unable to be there, but you've consistently worked to keep us informed, worked to keep us engaged, and worked to keep us partnering together to help better serve our members and our community. So thank you so very much.
Councilman Casey Thomas, congratulations. Servant of God, well done. Servant of the people, thank you so much for the time invested. Thank you for determining to do everything in your power to bring good to our side of town. Thank you for including meals in so many instances on many of the projects that you were daring to do. Thank you for reminding us in Dallas of the color of law and how important it has been that public policy has created both the division and dysfunction that sometimes characterizes so many of our cities. And so you've left a legacy. I now know that you're going to keep on doing what you've been doing. You went into office as an activist. I'm expecting you to keep on being active as you now speak truth to power. God bless you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Amen.
Good afternoon. Can you have the mic?
Yes, ma'am.
I really don't like mics. I was asked to introduce someone to you today, and I think you know him already, so I don't know why I was asked to introduce him. Now, there's some things that I can say about him that you probably already know, and that he probably would not want me to share.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
So whoever asked this ask was being a little risque, because you never know what Verna Mitchell might say. I consider Casey Thomas II as my third son. over the past 8 years, I think we've communicated on a daily basis. If there's something that I need, if there's something that I don't need, I call it. If there's something that the community needs that may not be my particular 3 streets, I call it. Because whatever affects one of us affects all of us. And so he has been aware of that. I don't know what he thought when he gave me his cell number. But I had it, and I have it, and I use it. I want to thank Casey Thomas II for everything that he's done for this community. I say, that I've lived in Elderwoods over 40 years. I've never had the relationship with a council person that I've had with Casey. Casey interacts with us. He'll drive by my house. I think he came by the other day. I wasn't feeling very well. And my grandson told him, Granny's not feeling well. Okay? But I know he came by. And he comes by not only to check on me, but to see how things are going in the community, to get the heartbeat of what is happening and what is not happening. I'm going through, I guess I'm mourning right now, and it's going to be difficult for me to accept someone that's not Casey Thomas II. And I'm being honest with you. The person is going to have a hard time building a relationship with me, because Casey has had a wonderful impact on our community simply by interacting with us, not as a community, but as individuals living in the community. All right? And so, as I can really talk, but I'm not going to go on and on. But I do want to take this time to not introduce to you, but present to you again our councilman for District 3, Casey Thomas II.
All right.
Do I need the mic? All right, all right. I want to say thank you. Thank you to each one of you for taking time out of your schedule to be here. I know for my seniors, and you know how I feel about you, I know it's lunchtime. And so I apologize for the delay, and I'm going to do my best to get through this. I've had, I believe, 3 State of District 3 press conferences right here in this room. I'm going to talk about how special this place is to me in my speech. I usually just have a few points, and I speak from the points, but I prepared a speech today because after 8 years, I didn't want to leave anything that I could think of out. So I want to first acknowledge my colleague and my buddy, Councilman Adam Magoo from District 10. If you would, just give him a round of applause. He came in with me 8 years ago, and he's leaving with me next week. Well, week after next. I don't want to rush it. Don't want to rush it. So thank you, buddy, for all your support, for being there, for showing up, for finding your way through the ice. And I'll talk more about that on the 19th or the 20th. But thank you. It means the world that you took time out to be here. And your friendship has been, number. We started with 6, and it's down to the dynamic duo. And so I thank you for being here. I also want to acknowledge top staff, City Manager T.C. Broad, and actually T.C. a round of applause. I can say that me and Adam and I think maybe one other council member are the only ones left who hired TC. And so he's been a joy to work with. We've learned how to work together. And I think it helped when I found out he lives in District 3. So he's a resident of District 3. And so I thank you for your courageous leadership. And I've said this publicly before, it's no way we could have got the work done we did around racial equity and the city's first ever racial equity plan done without the support of T.C. Broadband. So, one thing Mayor John Fortune, Assistant City Manager John Fortune. John may not remember this, any may. We were in the process of a search for a new police chief. Chief Brown had just left. And so John had came here and, you know, he was from Denton. I went to UNT. And so I told John, I said, I'm hosting a community meeting tonight. I think you've been here like 2-3 days. Yeah. I said, I'm having a community meeting tonight. I said, at this community meeting, we're going to discuss what's the criteria that we want to see in the next police chief. We had it over in Active Change, over in Oak Cliff when it was over in that space. John sat there, he took copious notes, and I can tell you, because I saw the notes, that some of the criteria that was used to bring, when we brought our previous chief, Chief Renee Hall here, that criteria was laid out by this community. And so you laid the foundation for who our police chief would be at that time. So John, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being willing to come with me after you had just got here. I want to thank Assistant City Manager Liz Sadia. Me and Liz have been joined at the hip for what, 4 years, back when I was chair of, what was it, maybe even Human and Social Needs. Yeah, going back before Workforce Education Equity Committee. We'll give you a minute to mute that. And the thing about Liz, and I knew of her legend preceded her. I knew about a lot of work that she had done in this city, and I was really impressed when I found out that TC was able to hire her to work for the city of Dallas. And me and Liz began working on a number of things, but Liz knew my first priority was about equity and about racial equity. And from a staff standpoint, her and TC worked together, and I don't know how many arguments, discussions, debates they had prior to. But we were able to work together, and she was able to actually lay the foundation for us getting where we are. So Liz, thank you, and thank you also for your support and being here. If you don't mind, give Liz a round of applause. Carl Simpson, who is now ACM, Assistant City Manager Carl Simpson. You know, when Carl got here, Carl had one of the toughest staff jobs you can have in the city of Dallas. You come on up, you have to sit. Carl was our code director. And I think, Carl, you've been here a week when I had you come to the Community and Neighborhood Leaders Breakfast. And Carl stood there. Carl gave out his business cards, or he gave his number. I don't know if he had cards at the time. And I can say this, and I see Sandra Aldridge, President of Senior Hills Neighborhood Association, is here. When Sandra says that you did a good job as Director of Code, and I wasn't here, no Sandra, no. Sandra sent about, I think just last week, I got 10 service requests. I was copied on the email. So Carl, thank you, and thank you for all your hard work, and you earned the right to be Assistant City Manager, so let's give him a round of applause. We had other elected officials who were invited, several who were not able to be here. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was intended to be, but she had to go back to DC. But we do have our state representative, State Board of Education member, Aisha Davis. She represents District 13, represents it well, and I have to say this, she did something we didn't think was possible in Texas. In her first term, she was able to get African American history passed statewide as an option for every student. She got reelected just on that. So thank you, I appreciate you being here. So, as council member elect, I hosted a community meeting at Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center to inform and get feedback from the community about 2 upcoming events that were taking place. The shopping center at 67 Redbird Square and Redbird Lane and the Redbird Mall were both going to be auctioned off the same weekend in the next few weeks. I wanted to be able to tell the new owners exactly what businesses and residents wanted to see in the shopping center and at the mall. Some of you in this room probably were at that meeting at Thurgood Marshall. At the meeting, we divided into work groups with butcher paper to come up with a list of businesses we wanted the owners to attract. Ironically, each group's list had the exact same thing: grocery stores, restaurants, and quality retail. When I met with the new owners, I took the list with me and gave them each a copy. They agreed that bringing a grocery store should be their #1 priority. Unfortunately, we all underestimated how hard that would be. My priorities on the city council were to bring economic development to District 3 in Southern Dallas, to have a 24-hour response time policy on requests to my office, and to be visible and accessible to constituents in the district and in the community. While we were unsuccessful in bringing a grocery store to the site where the Sack and Save used to be, we were able to bring a state-of-the-art $11 million, 100,000 square foot fitness connection. We were also able to do a public-private partnership to do a complete facelift of the shopping center. This was the first improvements made to that shopping center in over 40 years. The owner of the shopping center joked with Peter Brodsky, the owner of Redbird Mall, that he would be finished with his project first. However, Peter would get the last laugh, as he helped me to bring to fruition my biggest goal of all, bringing a grocery store, a full-service Tom Thumb, to Redbird Mall. Groundbreaking in 2022. As I look back on the past 8 years, we have brought over 1,000 new jobs to the district, helped to provide financial support to our local-owned businesses, been recognized for our response time to constituent concerns in the office, and been acknowledged as one of the best staffs in the City of Dallas Council offices. I thank Chris Soto and Yolanda Miller for that. Let's give Yolanda a round of applause. She's done a great job. Her and Chris were known as the dynamic duo, most of you know. And unfortunately, Chris couldn't be here. He's now working in the City Secretary's office. They have been a magnificent tag team and served as the longest secretary and assistant tandem at City Hall. We were successful because of them. One of the biggest accomplishments of my first term in office was to get over 20 brand new sidewalks in Singing Hills from previous bond dollars. This is a promise that was made by my predecessor that the neighborhood leaders in Singing Hills brought to my attention. Their request was for 10, but since we had the funding, we were able to put down 20 sidewalks. I could hardly wait until they completed them to drive down those streets and to take pictures of those brand new sidewalks. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you have to walk in the street to avoid oncoming traffic, or if you're a kid that never had a chance to play hopscotch or any other game that kids their ages play, it makes a big difference. In 2016, we launched an initiative called Neighborhood Plus. This was designed for the city to partner with the neighborhood to address short-term and long-term solutions. The community that was selected was the Twin Oaks, Wynwood Hills, Elder Oaks, Elderwood area. They participated in a 6-month series of meetings with city staff, developers, and other leaders to develop this plan. It was so successful that I was able to select another neighborhood, and we chose Keys Cliff. This is the area near Kimball High School. They chose this name because they wanted to be known as something other than the area near Kimball. After several months of meetings, they set up their own 6-month action plan. I want to thank Karen Riley. Is Karen here? She said she was going to try and make it. Karen Riley for quarterbacking this initiative and becoming like family to the residents and being our liaison between the city and the community. One of my disappointments was, unfortunately, we were not able to get the funding in the 2017 bond election for a full-service senior center. However, there was a ram in the bush. The Wellman Foundation had reached out to our Park and Recreation Department about potential locations for a senior center that would be connected to the Wellman Clinic. One of the locations that was recommended was where we stand today, right in the Redbird area of Oak Cliff. Myself, Councilmember Tanel Atkins, and our park board members flew to San Antonio to look at the model that they have there. We were both blown away from not only the quality of the facility, but the number of people that were there. And it was almost 50% men as well. We talked with the staff there, but most importantly, we talked to the seniors. They loved having a place to call their own. After our trip, I was asked if I would support this center as a partnership between the Wellman Foundation and the City of Dallas Park and Recreation Department. I said, absolutely. In about a year's time, not only had the building been reconfigured, but it was ready to open to the public. I will never forget the grand opening. Former Mayor Mike Rollins was there. I was here, Councilman Atkins was here, and the soon-to-be Hall of Famer, former Dallas Cowboy, Drew Pearson. How many of y'all remember being here for that? There were over 750 people at the grand opening, and we haven't looked back since. The Wellman Senior Center was even one of the first locations in Southern Dallas to open as a COVID vaccine site. Many of us here today, including myself, received our COVID vaccine in this very location. Speaking of COVID, this changed our lives and probably shortened my time on the council. The mayor appointed me to lead the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery, and my colleague, Adam Magoo, to lead the Ad Hoc Committee on Social Recovery. My job was to work with the business community and provide financial assistance and support for our local-owned small businesses that were impacted by COVID-19. This was no small feat. With the help of our former Chief for Economic Development, Dr. Eric Anthony Johnson, we were able to identify $3 million in funding and set aside $1.5 million for businesses of color in particular. We also partnered with the Dallas Citizens Council and the Dallas Regional Chamber to provide PPE and other forms of support to businesses throughout the city of Dallas and in District 3. On June 19, 2020, I received a call and was asked to chair both the Social Recovery and Economic Recovery Committee. By combining these committees, we were able to establish subcommittees that council members were able to lead. This allowed us to have a larger impact on addressing the pandemic. While the Far Park vaccine site was the only site in Southern Dallas, this did not meet the needs of those who lived in Oak Cliff and did not have access to transportation to South Dallas. We were able to successfully get South Oak Cliff High School set up as a site for registering appointments for the vaccine and a vaccine site. We created the Black COVID-19 Task Force. This task force was made up of Black business owners, health professionals, clergy, press, and elected officials for the purpose of addressing the needs of the African American community and making sure they had accurate information related to the vaccine. The task force was very effective in keeping the community informed of daily COVID cases, deaths, and locations where they could get the vaccine. During the pandemic, we also dealt with the effects of police brutality from the murder of George Floyd to the numerous cases across the country. As a result of the effort to reimagine public safety, I was able to establish the District 3 Public Safety Committee that was and is currently chaired by Derek Batty, longtime resident of the Singing Hills community. Is Derek here? He's 16, he would have stood out. So all right, but I thank Derek in his absence for leading that committee. And we have several members. If you're a part of that, raise your hand. I see Sandra. All right, thank you. Thank you all for serving on that committee. The work of this committee, the committee is made up of residents from different parts of the district and are focused on one goal, keeping District 3 safe. The work of this committee consisted of funding recommendations for the city budget for public safety, district-wide tours, monthly meetings with top brass of DPD and the city, and keeping me informed on needs that are in the district. I hope that my successor chooses to continue this committee and keeps Derek as the chair. He has done a great job. One of the most significant accomplishments has been my work to address racial equity. I encourage anyone who has not read it, and Pastor Haynes talked about it, to read the book Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. The Color of Law illustrates how disparities that we see in our city and our country were caused by policies that was implemented by those who served in elected office. If policy could create the inequalities, then policy could undo these policies. The first step was to meet with our city manager, T.C. Broadnax, and for him to hire a chief equity officer. T.C. can tell you about those meetings we had about hiring a chief equity officer. This individual's job will be to assess where the city is when it comes to racial equity and make recommendations. We were able to get the funding included for the position in the city's budget. Shortly after his hire, the council voted unanimously in 2019 for a resolution on racial equity. This resolution would lay the foundation for the work that would come later. One resolution was not good enough. We passed a second resolution when the new mayor and the 6 new council members were elected, since this council will be responsible for implementing any new policies that were developed under this resolution. Prior to beginning the process of developing a racial equity plan, I met with several community activists and equity advocates to discuss what a citywide racial equity plan would look like. Some of those in this meeting were Sarah McCurry, Pastor Edward Robinson, Pastor Dr. Frederick Haynes, Jerry Hawkins, Pastor Daniel Ayers, Amber Sims, and Pastor Dr. Michael Waters. I wanted to make it clear to each of them this would not be a half-baked policy that would come to the community after we already had the plan in place. After our conversation, I met with Liz and staff to discuss what a racial equity plan would look like. They began to do the research and identified a local company owned by a person of color that could handle the community engagement that was necessary to get citywide buy-in. After meeting with the consultant company, Conspera, and then meeting with our Chief Equity Officer, Dr. Lindsay Wilson, I was convinced that we were moving in the right direction. As we began to do the real work of developing the plan, there was a change in leadership. Mayor Johnson appointed my mentee on the council, Janie Schultz, as chair of the Workforce Education Equity Council Committee, and me as the vice chair. After spending 2 hours meeting with her, I knew she was the right person for the job. She successfully led the committee through the process of approving the plan, and with extensive community engagement, brought it to the full council where it passed with a vote of 14-1. She told me something a few weeks before we passed the racial equity plan that I would never forget. Her words were, "Because of you, this city will be known as one that is focused on equity and not equality. You will go down in history." I appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. My last assignment was to lead the city through a successful racial equity audit of our housing policy and the development of a new housing policy with a focus on racial equity. This was the most challenging task of my time on the city council. As we began the community engagement portion of the audit in January of last year, I lost my only sister to COVID. Renee Wheeler was my rock, and anyone who knew her knew she meant what she meant to me. She did the interior design of my office at City Hall and at my district office, and she ran my campaign office like it was her own. When my mother passed, she said she wanted to be at everything, so she tried to attend everything she could. Renee, I love you and miss you.
Yeah. Amen.
Once we completed the community engagement piece, the consultants briefed the council on the audit and what they recommended with community input. That was not good enough. We once again held a series of meetings in the community to get their feedback. Fortunately, we were spot on because we listened and included their input into the recommendations. The council voted unanimously to approve the recommendations, but our work was not done. We had to now create a new housing policy with a focus on racial equity. We hired the same consultants to develop our new housing policy. After months of community meetings and one-on-one meetings with council members, the consultants presented the new housing policy. We voted unanimously to approve the policy, and I thought my work was done. Nevertheless, my first promise and the only promise I hadn't fulfilled was to bring a grocery store to Oak Cliff. Little did I know that Peter Brodsky and Councilman Atkins were working on this very thing at Redbird Mall. All they needed from me was $1 million. That's all. $1 million of 2017 bond money to go toward an incentive package. I jumped at the opportunity to fulfill my last promise on the council. A few weeks ago, we passed a financial package needed to bring Tom Thumb to Redbird. Amen.
Amen.
My work here is now finished. But greater works will I do in the future. No, I'm not planning to come back.
Well,
I love this city, and I have given everything I've got to make it the best place to live. Now, some of you know Anita Baker is my favorite singer. So that's where that line came in, giving everything that I got. I love District 3 even more than I love this city, and I will miss the friendships we have developed. I ask that you support my successor, whoever he may be. He may not do the things the way that I would do them, but with your help, he will be the best city council member that he can be. Thank you for everything. This has been the fulfillment of a dream to represent the best people in the city of Dallas. Thank you.
All right.
Now, I know Channel 5 was here, or any other press here. I always want to give them an opportunity to ask questions. It is a press conference. All right. Last thing, this Saturday we're going to have a lot of fun. If you have not gotten the notice, we are having our District 3 Community Appreciation Cookout. It's going to be from 3 to 6 o'clock. It's going to be in Keys Park at the softball field. You are all invited. We're providing food. We're going to have live entertainment. And it's going to be a great time for us to celebrate one another. So, thank you. I'll be around if anybody wants to talk, have any questions, but I appreciate you being here. This has been the joy of my life. Thank you.
Thank you.